Deep in a warm, cozy forest, nestled among whispering trees and rustling leaves,
lived a little hedgehog named Thorn. He was a kind-hearted soul, but he had one big love. Apples! He didn't just love them. He considered them his most precious treasure. One beautiful autumn, when the leaves were turning gold and red, Thorn managed to collect a massive pile of rosy, sweet-smelling apples. He carefully rolled each one into his burrow, creating a magnificent mountain of fruit. Thorn sat proudly next to his apple hoard, his little nose twitching with delight. "Just look at how beautiful they are," he said to himself with a sigh of admiration. "I won't let anyone else have a single one. They're all mine, all mine." But in the forest, everyone knew that Thorn was the absolute best apple picker around. His apples were always the juiciest and the sweetest, and that meant he often had visitors hoping for a taste.
The first to hop by was Tapatan, the bunny, his long ears drooping a little. "Hello, Thorn," he said hopefully.
"Could I perhaps have one of your apples? I've been running around all day long, and I'm so very tired and hungry."
But Thorn frowned, guarding his treasure. "No," he snapped.
"Go find your own apples in another forest? These are my apples." The bunny's ears drooped even lower, and he sadly hopped away without another word. Next, scurrying down a tree branch, came Celesta, the squirrel, her tail twitching nervously. "Thorn dear," she chattered, "my pantry is completely empty, and the little ones are hungry. Could we have just one small apple, please?" No, absolutely not,"
Thorn muttered,
quickly shuffling to block the entrance to his burrow.
"Not a single one."
Celesta sighed and scurried back up her tree, disappointed.
A little while later, even the gentle little bear cub, Mocha, approached cautiously. He peered over a bush, his big brown eyes wide with curiosity. "Thorn, can I at least get a little sniff? They smell so wonderful." "Not even a sniff,"
The hedgehog declared firmly, making sure his apple fortress was secure, and so it went, day after day.
Friends and neighbors would stop by, hoping for a bit of kindness, but Thorn turned them all away. Soon, no one came to visit anymore. The path to Thorn's burrow grew quiet. Even the most curious little mice and chatty birds avoided his home. Thorn sat all alone in his burrow, munching on a crisp apple.
Phew, he thought with relief.
"Finally, no one is bothering me for my apples. This is wonderful."
But as he sat there in the silence, a strange feeling crept into his heart. It was empty.
The burrow was full of apples, but it felt hollow without the cheerful greetings of his friends. There were no guests to share stories with, no laughter echoing from his doorway, and no friendly faces bringing news from around the forest. There was just him and his silent pile of apples. Then one evening, a cold rain began to fall, pattering against the roof of his burrow.
Thorn went to choose his dinner and noticed something awful.
A few of the apples at the bottom of the pile were getting soft and brown. They were starting to spoil.
"Oh no!"
He cried out in alarm.
"What's happening? They'll all go bad." He felt a surge of panic. He had so many apples, too many to eat by himself.
But now, there was no one around to share them with.
The next morning, the rain had stopped, but the air was still damp and chilly. As Thorn peeked out of his burrow, he heard a faint noise. A twig snapped nearby, followed by the rustle of leaves. He looked over and saw a tiny bird named Zlata huddled on a branch. Her feathers were all fluffed up, and she was shivering from the cold and hunger.
Thorn's first instinct was to ignore her and go back to his apples.
But As he watched the little bird tremble, his heart gave a little pang of sadness. He couldn't just walk away.
Hesitantly, he called out, "Excuse me, do you... Do you want an apple?"
It's just a small one. The little bird, Zlata, perked up immediately.
She turned her head, her bright eyes hopeful, and nodded eagerly, letting out a grateful chirp.
Thorn carefully picked out a nice, small apple and rolled it over to her.
As Zlata pecked at the fruit, a warm feeling spread through Thorn's chest. It wasn't warmth from the sun or from his cozy burrow. It was a warmth that came from helping someone in need.
That very day, Thorn made a decision.
He picked a few of his best apples and set off through the forest.
His first stop was Topatin, the bunny's home.
When the bunny saw Thorn with apples, his eyes went wide with surprise.
For me? Are these ... really for me?
Thorn nodded, feeling a little shy.
I'm sorry I was so mean before, he said quietly.
A huge smile spread across the bunny's face.
He not only took the apple, but, for the very first time, invited Thorn inside his home for a cup of clover tea. Next, Thorn visited Celesta, the squirrel, and then Mocha, the bear cub. To each of them, he offered an apple and a sincere apology. Everyone was surprised, but they were all incredibly happy to see their old friend again.
By evening, the news had spread like wildfire through the entire forest. Thorn the Hedgehog was no longer a greedy grump.
He was sharing. To celebrate this wonderful change, the animals decided to throw a small party by the great oak tree. Celesta brought a pile of crunchy nuts.
Topatin brought sweet carrots he had saved, and Motka carried a pot of delicious golden honey from his family's hive.
They set everything out and waited together for the guest of honor. When Thorn finally arrived, a chorus of happy greetings met him. Thorn, come, join us. We're so glad to see you. Let's play hide and seek. Everyone welcomed him with open paws and wings. As Thorn sat there, surrounded by happy, chattering friends, he had a big realization. This feeling, this joy of being together, was so much better than sitting alone with a mountain of apples. True happiness wasn't about having things. It was about having friends. At the end of the party, as the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Thorn stood up and looked at all his friends. I used to think that my apples were the most important thing in the world, he said, his voice full of emotion. But now I see that the most valuable treasure is all of you. Thank you for not giving up on me. The animals cheered and gathered around him in a big, warm group hug, chirping, grunting, and meowing with friendship.
From that day on, Thorn still collected apples every autumn.
But now, he didn't hide them in his burrow. Instead, he brought his entire collection to the center of the forest, creating a community pile for everyone to enjoy. And if a young animal ever asked him, Thorn, why are you so generous with your gifts?
The wise little hedgehog would smile and reply, because real happiness isn't just about being happy yourself.
It's about seeing those around you happy too.